All right, let's just get started, folks.
Yep.
And we'll start letting people into the room gradually. But again, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Ryan Burns. I am the head of community at the Startup Network. We are Australia's largest independent startup community. So 65,000 strong, I believe, at this point, and growing every day. We brought events like, Sam Altman's conversation with us last year, all the way to having our own startup festival in February with Future Horizons. And we run a gamut of online options as well so that we can support our growing community everywhere. And today's no different. Today we are joined by my friend Blair Smith, who's going to kind of dive into the area of launching a business. And it's really great stuff because Blair's a successful founder. And he's really just here to help you folks out as founders. And so please, a couple of housekeeping items today. If you do have any questions throughout the session, please just go ahead and put them into the chat, and we will go ahead and do a Q&A at the end. There's going to be a plethora of different topics covered, so your questions can vary. Please feel free to write it in. I'll moderate in the chat. I'll also put some links into the chat as well for us at the Startup Network. If you wanted to join as a member, we have some great options for founders to join either on a monthly basis or quarterly or yearly basis. And that includes a lot of our programs, a lot of our amazing events that we have. We loaded up on events this last couple months. We did 20 events in April and May. I don't know why we did it, but I am still standing, so I guess we'll do it again. In fact, we had one last night, so we will continue to bring the most events and programs to our community of founders, more than anybody else in Australia. And I put that up against anybody because 20 events in 60 days is like one every 3 days. And so we are bringing everything to you, and today's no different. We're gonna have a great chat today, but really, if you do have any other questions about the Startup Network, please don't hesitate to ask me. Today's session will be recorded so that you'll be able to access it just in case you have to log off, or if a friend of yours wants to watch it later, feel free. We can always send him the link or put it up on our YouTube channel so that you can access it. But I will stop talking now, and I'll give over to my friend Blair, who's going to take us through the area of a lesson in launching. It's going to be a fantastic ride for us today. Did I just mess up the screen there? So I'm sorry. Hold on.
Okay. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you, but can everybody see the big the slides? I think I might have there we go. I put it there. There you go. Go ahead, Blair.
Okay, great. Just going to quickly test these pages. There we go. Yep. Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time today to out of your lunch break and to hopefully learn something today. Yeah, I'm the founder of a company called GoFetch, or I was. I exited a few years ago. So what I've done today is I kind of reduced my 5 years running that business to things that I wish I knew at the start. Back in 2016, it was a very different landscape for the startup community. I think you're very lucky to have what you have now in that form of the Startup Network and many others that I've accessed this year. But yeah, back when I launched, there wasn't a lot of that. There was a lot of co-working spaces, but not so much a sense of community. So there was a lot of sort of isolation and really doing this fairly unsupported initially. So I'm trying to prevent that for you and give you some of my tips for launching well. And launching obviously does include marketing, but there's a lot more before that as well. So it's just a half an hour chat. Feel free to interrupt at any time. Get some comments happening, and Ryan can read those out. But there will be a formal Q&A at the end of this as well. So sit back and enjoy, and I hope you get something out of this. And my contact details are at the end of the presentation, so feel free to contact me directly as well. Okay, so GoFetch was a peer-to-peer on-demand delivery app. And nobody really had those in Australia when I launched this. Uber had started ride-sharing, but they weren't in food yet. Deliveroo and Fedora, if you remember those guys, they were doing food. But there wasn't a lot happening in relation to non-food deliveries, peer-to-peer. So what I'm going to take you through today is the concept of GoFetch. how I took it to market. And we did this actually very well. If I could say so myself, the one thing we did really well was launch. I'll take you through what my first 6 months were like in terms of just warts and all, the good and the bad, and then the early pitfalls and the wins and things that I wish I knew earlier. So a formal capture of that on a slide coming up. One of the things I will drill into quite specifically today, and there's about 5 to 10 minutes on this, is your value proposition, because it is everything. Everyone I've worked with so far through the Startup Network and other VCs and venture firms will know that I really do push quite heavily on the VP. And you'll see why in a second, because it links very tightly to your ideal client, your customer profiling, and really having an audience ready and waiting for you when you launch. So ideal client part of that, there's a really lovely thing once you're launched called SOAP, which is strategy on a page. And for me, it's a methodology of putting all your value prop and all your strategic stuff into action. So it's a one-page document that lets you know where you're tracking, what the priorities are for this quarter. And basically, if you did nothing else but tick off the items on this quarterly SOAP, you'll be doing very well. I'll talk briefly about brand and how to get your brand strategy right. And then the dance of effectively marketing and innovation. Once you're up and running, marketing and innovation don't stop working together. They feed each other, and it's a push-pull thing. You're pushing with marketing, and the market is telling you what they need next. So it's a very interesting dynamic and very important. What I'll leave you with is how to build a team and feel really supported. And that team might be made up of people that could surprise you, especially competitors. Our competitors weren't so much enemies at all. They ended up being some of our biggest customers and our biggest fans. So if your value proposition is different enough, they don't necessarily have to be a threat to you. They can actually complement what you're trying to do. Then I'll take you through what I'm doing now, which is Greywoods Consulting. I've been out of GoFetch for 4 years and really trying to give back in ways like this, as well as helping small businesses in addition to startups. And then I'll finish with just the top 10 hacks, if you like, the 10 tips that I would leave you with in terms of your key takeaways from today. So this is me now, Greywoods, named after my farm up here in the Macedon Ranges. And I do, startup founder coaching and regional small business coaching as well. So really loving the mentoring and coaching side. And I've got a fairly structured process and almost like a short course for new founders and new business owners. There's a QR code too, which is on the presentation that Ryan will send you through to the startup section of my website. So this is GoFetch.
GoFetch works as a marketplace that matches customers needing something delivered with fetchers willing to go and get it for them. Fetchers are not GoFetch employees. As a fetcher, you work for yourself. You have your own ABN and are effectively a sole trader. GoFetch does not have any expectations about the way you work. You can do as many or as few fetches as you like. Just set yourself to active when you're ready and able to work, and to inactive when you're no longer available to fetch. You can also change your transport type every time you're ready to work. When you log in, just hold your thumb over the transport symbol and you can set yourself to car, bike, pedestrian, motorbike, or truck. Your transport type will affect the types of jobs you're assigned. For example, a bike fetcher won't get allocated a heavy or big item. When a job is added, a notification is sent to the fetcher closest to the job pickup location. The fetcher has 1 minute to accept or reject the job. If the fetcher has not accepted the job within 1 minute, a notification is sent to all active fetchers. The first fetcher to accept the job is allocated the job. Once you've accepted a job, there are a couple of things you need to do to help the customer out and provide a professional experience for GoFetch. Number 1, use the chat button to let the customer know your ETA at the pickup point. Number 2, introduce yourself by saying your name and the fact that you're picking up or dropping off on behalf of GoFetch. Number 3, if you have any issues, hit the live chat option on the menu and you can talk with a member of our support team. When you work as a fetcher, you get 100% of the fee displayed to you, which equates to 80% of the total delivery fee every single time. The amount paid by the customer is split when the job is completed, and your 80% goes into your holding account. Once cleared, it will be transferred into your nominated bank account. We recommend you research your GST, tax, and insurance requirements, especially public liability in the event of an accident. So that's it. You're part of the sharing economy and an employment model that is changing the way Australians work. GoFetch is all about you. You choose when to work and for how long. Welcome to the GoFetch gang and happy fetching.
So pretty cute, hey? And that video was actually done by a friend of mine who was working for Pixar. So I'm not sure whether you remember the movie Up, about the old guy with the house and the balloons, and he worked on that. So yeah, look, we started working on the supply side first. So that video was the first thing we produced to get fetchers on board, so that there was going to be enough people doing the deliveries once the actual marketing kicked in and customers started being acquired. In terms of the timeline for this, I actually conceived it in 2012. It was going to be a hyper-local delivery model back then. It was called Concierge 3182 because I was living in St Kilda. And we were going to get your butcher, your baker, your florist all signed on to this local sort of market, if you like. And we're going to get school kids performing the deliveries. And then I was going to do Elwood and Richmond. And I just thought the beauty of Melbourne is it was just a bunch of villages. So you could almost do it at a hyper-local level. But then I was, over the next few years, I just sort of ruminated on it, and then apps happened. And I was in Bali and I saw a couple of apps launching over there that were really clever. They were very much like my idea, but tech-based. So I kept working corporate. And then in May, while I was actually in a fairly senior role in town, I had this thing being built on the side. So all of 2015 and early 16 was the build. So we launched in February 2016, just purely to Melbourne Metro. So our little pink zone, of which showed where we operated, was just really Collins Street and the CBD. And then we gradually built that out to broader Melbourne. And then interestingly, we launched into Brisbane, not Sydney, next. We're getting a lot of inquiries from Brisbane, which was really cool. And it had a similar vibe to Melbourne, and we got a lot of coffee roasters. A lot of the clients we picked up first in Melbourne had businesses in Brisbane as well. So we launched there in 17, Sydney in 18, and then it is now national. From a tech perspective, we launched with a web app first. Because a lot of our clients were corporate, we just wanted receptionists or people placing the delivery just to have it available on their desktop. So it was a web app first, iOS by February 16, and then Android was the rest of 17, 18. Now, I ran it till 2020 and then got a few offers, including a very good one in London as part of a pitch campaign, which just fell through. But we did successfully exit in 2020, selling to a company here in Melbourne that wanted the code for a bunch of other things. So very little visibility on it now, but I did hear that in the annual updates that I get, that it's had a very good time during COVID. They've launched nationally. They're in all the major capitals now. COVID was a really big time for them. But post-COVID, there has been a decline. You've seen people like Milk Run, CoLab, Your Grocer all leave the market. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with GoFetch version 2 as it currently stands, or what the owner's appetite is for it. But we still have a 20% holding in it. So yeah, fingers crossed there's life in it yet. But that was the timeline for us. Oops. Okay. This is the just a handy slide that I think is important for all of you, just to really understand the size of your market. When you are going to investors, even small ones, they're going to want to see the size of the opportunity. In 2015, 16, as we launched, the only dominating companies were things like Couriers Please, DHL, just traditional milk run sort of couriers. No one was available to do just peer-to-peer short form deliveries. The C2C market, top left here, top right, sorry, that was also completely new. No one was doing earphones left at the gym, lunches to the kids, just scenarios that were really non-corporate and non-B2B, B2C. So yeah, look, when I first launched this, it was going to be with a C2C offering. It was picking up your dry cleaning, those sorts of things. But very quickly, we got a lot of interest from the business world, and even couriers who used us to go, if they were doing if Couriers Please did 50 deliveries with the same driver and they forgot one, that big truck would have to go back and do that single item, which is a waste of fuel and time. They were using us for exception runs for things like that. And that was really interesting. So we end up having B2B, B2C, and C2C all humming very quickly due to just timing of tech and apps launching, and also the growth in online shopping and just what that meant for delivery. And yeah, look, a very good run. This is the hockey stick. So fantastic first few years. And every month was better than the last. Revenue was growing at 168%. And we ended up doing over 15,000 jobs in our first 2 years. We had thousands of customers and thousands of fetchers all transacting. So really lovely story in those first couple of years. And as this was all happening, we were, what is it, like the swan, all calm on the top and just pedaling down below. We were building a lot of new features. The biggest debates internally were what features should be next. But yeah, look, a really, really lovely story in terms of monetization, revenue generation, and also publicity. So these were some of the features that we built. So down the bottom there, you'll see the milk run as well as multiple job upload. We actually ended up building a CSV format so somebody could just load on a spreadsheet of all of their deliveries for the day. And that would be allocated to one driver to perform a run, or multiple drivers to split that job. We had insurance. Marine insurance is actually the term for anything being delivered, not just must have a nautical heritage, but it is any deliveries called marine insurance. We had guarantees, we had insurance, we had the ability to do a calendar booking, not just on demand, 24 hours, real-time tracking, chat with your fetcher. And then we introduced purchase and pickup, so the fetcher could buy on your behalf and get refunded through the app. So some very cool tech that ended up being developed and made us very different. We had every scenario covered. And as you'll see here, bottom left is traditional couriers, and bottom or to the right is more peer-to-peer, if you like. So very free, on demand, just momentary experience for booking. So if you look at all of our competitors on the table there, you'll see DHL, Australia Post, all the traditional ones. And then on the right, you've got some of our peer-to-peer competitors like Zoom2You and Sherpa. And we really did try to position ourselves as having the most features in terms of the actual technology itself. Okay, so the first 6 months, and I'm not sure where all of you are at. I'd really love to get into that and hear more of your stories, but I felt amazing when I did this. I left the corporate world. There was a bit of a buzz about it. I felt very validated that the idea that had been ruminating for years had morphed into something that was desired. We had enough money for a 1-year crack at this, but I did have a niggling feeling that the people I'd engaged to build it weren't really in it for much more than the money. There wasn't that sense of having a true partner in my tech supplier. I wasn't sure if the valuation was right. We actually didn't raise on a high valuation, and I regretted that because of how quickly it took off. So we just raised the first family and friends round was 500,000 on a 3 million valuation, which is crazy when I look back at it. So I was worried about dilution and how big I could go with the next raise. I was very overwhelmed, as I mentioned at the start of this. I didn't have a lot of support in relation to a startup community like this. So it was really, just me and a bunch of people that I recruited, and then an external tech supplier, but fairly lonely journey in those first couple of years with a huge to-do list. And more than anything, I didn't understand the legals. I'd been on the client side, I'd been corporate, never had to deal with shareholder agreements, a vesting agreement, which is where shares fall due. If somebody does some work for sweat equity, that's called a vesting agreement. All of the schedules and legal contracts, I didn't really understand them, and they were pretty clunky with that first lawyer that I had as well. I also had no financial acumen. So as we grew, I couldn't read a balance sheet. I didn't know on a P&L or cash flow statement what the screening things were, what the things were that needed the most attention. So all of that stuff really took time. But I really wish I had educated myself before I'd done any of this about some of this stuff down the bottom here. Now, all of those, mixture of positive and negative things aside, it was working. I was getting very positive feedback. Both the customer and the Fetcher databases were growing, and we're getting a lot of repeat business, which was very, very flattering. That was my main indicator of success, is somebody coming back to do another one. So we did have that, and a lot of media attention in those first couple of months as well. Okay, the pitfalls. Yeah, I had I don't know about you guys, but I was kind of told I should have a co-founder, and I kind of didn't really vet anyone. I just did what I was told by some of my shareholders, and my CTO ended up being a co-founder for the first 6 months or so, but they were also being paid fee for service, so they didn't really have any skin in the game. There was no money from them personally, and no sweat equity. It was all financial. So yeah, I kind of regret that. I don't think my model necessarily needed a co-founder. I definitely needed support, but it didn't have to be in the form of a co-founder who was my tech lead. I didn't raise enough, as I mentioned. I was just a little bit anxious about all of that, and we were already back out pitching for new money within 8 months. The UX wasn't that flash when we launched. I'm not sure whether you guys are doing tech businesses but when you do, just watch out for the user experience, because it is everything. We had a mandatory field for setting up an account, which was your photo, which was just crazy. So we got on Channel 10 and a lot of press that first weekend. 6,000 people downloaded the app and tried to set up an account, and only 2,000 made it through, because we had a mandatory field of photo. You needed to supply a profile pic, and that was just ridiculous. We didn't need to do that. So we shot ourselves in the foot there. I didn't have any really good legal or accounting services. I was just using people ad hoc, but they really are core suppliers. And also some brokers who behave pretty badly. So when you do engage somebody to go and help you find some capital, they generally charge about 5% as a success fee. So they get paid based on how much money they bring in. So if they bring in $1 million, they get $5,000. 50 grand. They basically have, but they have a percentage of equity based on how much they raise. I had a broker who didn't raise anything, so we flew all around the country at our expense, and then we didn't actually get any money from his connections. But then I got an invoice for 5% of the money I ended up raising myself. So we ended up in court with that. So just watch out for brokers and cowboys who jump onto a good idea, but may not have your interests at heart. So there's a dark side to the startup world as regards anybody who approaches you to help. Just be very careful with how you structure all that. On the upside, our unique selling proposition was resonating. The marketing execution was excellent. We got a lot of attention from the press, and a very good pool of both fetchers and customers, primarily through legal offices, which was a surprise. They did a lot of conveyancing work where documents needed to be signed and returned. Florists was a lay down there. Corporates as well, doing a lot of envelopes just around town. So some surprising segments that end up being our main customers. And we, in 2017, News Corp publishes at the end of each year unaided brand recall, like a marketing research exercise. And GoFetch was #1 for unaided brand recall for delivery apps. So we were beating the likes of Deliveroo, Fedora. So that was very flattering as well. And all of my investors topped up in the second raise. So when we did that second raise 8 months after the first one, everybody chipped in a bit more. So I didn't really have to go to the open market or VCs until a bit later in the journey. There we go. Now, I'm going to get into value prop here. This is super important. So if you look at our key messages that GoFetch was using, you'll see that each of them really doesn't talk in terms of money, and it doesn't talk in terms of features and benefits. It actually talks in terms of value. So yeah, we had a B2B value prop, B2C, and getting really clear on why somebody should give your service a go, what value you're providing them at an emotional level really is super important. So I'd urge you to actually revisit the next 3 slides that I'm about to show you and get really deep into these for your own business. When you're developing a value prop, you've got to work out how are you saving them money, how are you saving them time, how are you adding expertise, how are you adding to their brand rather than subtracting from it, how are you adding happiness and security to their lives, how are you generally improving their life, how do you give them an advantage, and how do you make life easier? So our ideal clients, we really were fairly clear that we were improving their life, we made their life easier, and that we were saving them time. And then digging further into your ideal client, what are their goals? Get into their head. You might have heard of a thing called personas, where you actually say, you know, our ideal client is her name's Sharon, she's 32, she lives in Nunawading, she's got 2 kids. That's, I didn't used to really value that, but these personas and deep profiling of your ideal client it's very worthwhile doing. What are their goals? Why do they want you in their lives? How could they replace you? Who does it better? Why would they replace you? Who does it cheaper than you? And then when you're looking at your competitors, who are they? What are their main differentiators? What are the gaps in their offerings that your model might actually close? And, you know, do they value those gaps? So one of the first exercises when you're looking at your value prop and your ideal client is to look for these gaps and fill them. Be the one to fill those gaps so that, you know, if there's a bunch of players in the market, no one's actually addressing those pain points. So with us, you know, why would your ideal client be stupid to not use you? Because we're instant, affordable, trackable, and we make life easier for them. Okay, that's all well and good. How do you maintain that position? So in relation to product, customer service, management, packaging, branding, education touchpoints, marketing materials, your leadership team, systems, how do you, with every one of these elements, what do you need to do? What are your 20 actions for each of these to maintain that position? So one of the methodologies we use for this is a really, I've just done a simple one here for you, but it's basically an ideal client finding exercise. Across the top here, you'll see 6 pillars, and what you do in the blue bar is nominate 10 or 15 features. I've only done 6, but you can do as many as you want. What are the elements of your ideal client? Okay, for us, they used couriers often. Speed was important to them. They operate in all major capitals. They understand technology. They've got a website, social media pages. They've got a good digital footprint. And they work with new brands. They're not, you know, they're not stuck with certain suppliers. So whatever your 10 or 12 are, just put them across this top line. And then you give everybody a score of 0 to 1. So each of these items, you rank from 0 to 1 for a total score on the right out of 6. So however many values you've got at the top there, you just divide by that. So for example, we had legal firms, florists, gift shops, bottle shops. We had, so say for legal firms, I'll go to florists. Yes, they use couriers a lot. Speed is important. The flowers are going to die. They'd be great if they worked in every major capital. So under the florist, you can actually name some names. Then you've got, they use technology. Okay, they've got websites, that's fine. Pretty good digital footprint. So over on the right here, you'll see their score out of 6. And you'll see that florists and real estate agents who were sending keys around everywhere, they scored the highest for us. So whatever yours are, this is just a really easy way of working out who your ideal client is based on key criteria that you nominate. And then you can start going over after everybody who's scored in the top quarter and really just get a detailed list of legal firms, detailed list of florists, whoever, whatever yours are, name names and then go, okay, are they national? Can I find a contact point there? And it's just a really good way of making an ideal client hit list. And I value this a lot in relation to that plus the value prop. Now, this is called a brand wheel. So a brand is a promise, and you need to know what yours is. You need to emphasize differences, not similarities. You need to focus on your ideal client's brain and what they want. You've got to keep your brand very simple, ideally one to 3 words, and have one word that you own when they think of you, and be consistent with it. This example on the left here, you'll see the line, a horizontal line. Everything above that is functional, and everything below that is emotional. So you'll see on the functional quadrants, you've got describe the product and what does it do for me. On the top right, you've got things like solutions, quality. This is a packaging company, by the way. Chemicals, they caters to my budget, cheap and nasty. What does it do for me? It helps my business function because I rely on this guy to do all of my packaging and other things. They help grow my business. Below it, you've got how does it make me look? How does it make me feel? Out of those quadrants, you just list as many names or as many words as possible, and then choose your most important 3. So for them, it was consistency, optimized, solutions. And what they then do is use words like consistent, optimized, and solution in all of their copy. And the images that they go and find for their social media posts have also got to be related to those 3 brand pillars. So I'd urge you to really get into your own brand and understand what it is. This is called a brand wheel, and GoFetch ended up having personal empowerment magic. We really what's that? What was that?
I think it was just a mistake, Blair. You can continue.
Okay. Yeah, so we really love the word magic for us because I think Isaac Asimov or somebody said that good technology is indistinguishable from magic, and that we really hung on that. So we tried to really have that as one of our brand pillars. And now for you guys, there's 2 types of plans that you need as you develop your models. The first ones, they include customer profiling, developing the value proposition, mitigating and testing. So before you launch, you've got to validate your assumptions. Try to understand what the key risks are that you will face at launch, and try to reduce those with a lot of validation and testing. Prepare your teams as I did with that first video with my supply side. Get your sales, marketing, customer service teams in play. Map your customer experience and see where you need resources at each point. Try to facilitate very good funding terms. I'm working with Mayflower Ventures at the moment on a hospitality disruptor, and they're about to go to market in terms of capital raising, but they've already got a very proven system. They've got a lot of users already on this beta model or beta version of what they're doing. They've got over 6,000 users. They're generating some money already. Anything you can do at your beta stage, pre-launch, will help you nominate a high valuation and pique the interest of genuine investors. And also, it gives you a stronger negotiating position when it comes to the money chat. And get your profit formula right. So there's a thing called CAC versus LTV, cost of acquisition versus lifetime value. So what does it cost you to get a new customer? And what does it cost you to retain over the course of however long they stay with you? Getting your financial formulas and your profit formulas right is very important before you launch. After you've launched, you're going to need a vision and a mission. You need a situation analysis, the macro environment. What are the trends in your market? What are your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? What are the legislative or governmental impacts? What, for example, say carbon offsets or renewables. What is going to happen to your industry over the coming years as regards legislation and things beyond your control? What are your competitors doing? How can you segment the market to go after a very specific position? They can have these bits, but you're going after this. And how do you communicate that you're going after that little part of the market? So segmentation and positioning, super important. Your marketing mix is basically your 4 Ps. You might have heard of product, place, price, promotion. If you've got a service industry, there's 3 more. There's process, people, and presentation. That's your tactical plan. So that's your marketing mix. So as you go to market, get your a Gantt chart of activity ready to go, whether you're using Meta Business Suite to schedule social media posts or you're doing activation, advertising, all of that goes under here. And then you've got your budget and forecasting. So we'll get to that in a minute, which is going to be part of your SOAP. But really, you do have to have targets, financial targets in mind. So don't just launch, you've got to know what success looks like. And it is really whether you hit or miss these targets. So one is your marketing plan down the bottom, and one is your go-to-market. So your marketing plan happens after launch and your go-to-market happens before launch. But these 2 plans, if you did nothing else, get really clear on these 2 types of plans and you'll do very well once you're actually up and running. And just on this, just drill in again, the importance of marketing. So for us, it was everything. And if you do launch well, marketing is kind of a dirty word, probably because Scott Morrison was the head of marketing and didn't do the name any favors. But basically, your business is all marketing once you're live. It's marketing and tweaking. And you do have to understand and revisit your marketing plan all the time. It's not a passive document. It's dynamic. It moves a lot. Always look at the macro environment. Always look at the landscape and who's entering. Do research, qualitative, which is one-on-one interviews with some of your clients and best customers. What are they enjoying about you? Quantitative, like broader surveys through SurveyMonkey or what have you. Just really do a lot of research. Keep refining your brand and your target audience, including new ones. Always have your tactical plan refreshed. SEM is search engine marketing, like Google ads, Facebook ads. SEO is search engine optimization. That's your keywords so that people can find you easily if they're searching for business coach startups. Hopefully Greywoods is on the first page. SEO is free, just your organic ranking. SEM is paid. But these terms, just get yourself across them and what you need to optimize both of them. Then you've got feedback and reporting. So down the bottom in line 4 here, SMT is your senior management team. XFT is your cross-functional team. You really do need a team working for you. You're the CEO at this point. So have people being very clear on their roles and responsibilities, and you're on the business, not in it. A cross-functional team is somebody from every division, every department that might be part of your functioning business now needs to meet and decide the priorities and tell you. They manage up rather than you being in all of those meetings. Work to quarterly sprints. Always improve your UX. Work to KPIs. Have clear roles and responsibilities. And when you're in business as usual, when you're up and running and you've got staff on the payroll, what's your growth strategy? And as I said, if you look at that Milan Kundera quote, business has only got 2 functions, marketing and innovation, and that's all you do. Once you're up and running, just keep marketing, keep innovating. We did a bunch of things. We did tram stops. They did really well, actually. We had this $10 promo code. And yeah, a lot of people use that. We were just all up Collins and Burke Street. We did partnerships with florists. Karmic Juice was a great customer. We took over the Herald Sun in one of those annoying pop-ups you can't get around. That did very well. So try everything and see what works, but make it measurable so that you know where it came from. We also end up getting a lot of inbound inquiry, interviews with, I was on the Today Show, the Huffington Post called us for an interview from the States, and then a lot of broadsheets and Australian radio and media took a big interest in us in that very first year. So really validated the marketing strategy and what we are offering and was of appeal. And yeah, very quickly, I mentioned earlier before about your competitors not necessarily being a threat. I mean, obviously, they are to a degree in terms of the fact that you are competing, but you might find that there are parts of their offering that you could actually help them with, and vice versa. We did a lot of white labeling where we took the GoFetch brand away and just gave the platform to concierge services. We gave it to King's Transport. We gave it to Couriers Please, so that they could use our tech and we made just as much money, but our brand was not necessarily on there. Couriers Please let us do a co-branding exercise, so we had our brand plus theirs. But always look for new opportunities, even from your competitors. Look for these new markets. Like we had a lot of late night stuff starting to happen. We end up having shift workers doing a lot of deliveries, which was quite interesting. We had groceries and chemists doing work. So we're doing a lot of chemist runs to elderly people getting their medication delivered. I remember as a kid, I did a chemist round on a bike. We were doing that for large companies like Amcal. So always try to get more out of your existing clients, and don't see your competitors as a threat. Just see whether there's ways to work together. And this is when we launched. This is our hard launch now. So we launched with, actually, I'm just going to go forward one more. Sorry. That's okay. There was one more video that was going to play. Okay, so this is the SOAP that I mentioned earlier. So this is called Strategy on a Page. It's linear. So if you look at the left to right, you've basically got what are your values, what's all your brand stuff over here, what's your vision and what's your purpose, and then what are some actions based on those values. And then down the bottom left in column 2, you'll see BHAG. That stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. So do you want to be the biggest in the world? Do you want to be as big as Facebook? You know, what is your most audacious goal, personal and business? Then you start getting narrower. So within 3 years, what do I want my revenue to be? What do I need to do to achieve those? So what are the key focus areas to achieve your 3-year target? Then you get to the 1 year, column 4. This is where you get very granular. What's your revenue? What's your cost of goods sold? What's your gross profit? What's your cash at hand? What's your net profit? All of these metrics you need to actually have written down as something to aim for. So you'll know whether you're on track or not for these in a 1 year goal. And then what are my annual initiatives? So one could be expand into Sydney. That's an annual initiative. So just have that down as one of your 5 things that you need to do. And then the final column is the quarter. So we're in Q4 right now. This is the 4th quarter of FY24. What are you hoping to achieve in this final quarter before the end of financial year? These 5 things here are agreed by your whole team, and you give somebody is in charge of it, and you have a date that's going to be due. So at the very least, you'll have a lot more actions than this, but what are your main 5 for this quarter? What is your theme for the quarter? So this strategy on a page, I really like it. And if you can just have this as in your first year of being a CEO of your business, then happy days. It will keep you very accountable, and all of your senior team can look at it. Now, in relation to what I mentioned before, in relation to some of the mistakes I made, you do need a good team around you. It doesn't have to be, co-founders. It could be, but your best customers, other founders, mentors and advisors, investors, they all become a really key part of your business. But what I would also recommend you do at the very start is get some really good advisory. Charles Thompson for us was ex-Australia Post. We had a CTO advisory. He just came in and helped us with the tech roadmap. Very good CFO to help us, really mitigate some tax issues and growing pains. And then my co-founder, or non-executive board member, really, who I leaned on a lot, was Dennis Ferios. And this guy had a great background in IT, a lot of cloud-based systems. He's grown a number of businesses and was just fantastic. And he was also a KPMG consultant. So I had some very good advice, which I'm still very friendly with these guys to this day. They really were the the face of GoFetch, really. So create your own community. But yeah, startup network aside, just you need your own community for your business, and just work out who that is. Okay, so this is what I'm doing now. So it's I'm doing startup founder mentoring, and then obviously beyond a certain point, you're a CEO, so that very quickly turns into business coaching. And then I'm also management consulting as well for larger groups that are looking to do mergers and acquisitions and capital raising and those sorts of things. But yeah, look, I'm having a brilliant time with my post GoFetch life, but still really keen to get back into the startup space. So the focus last year and this year is really just helping founders who might just benefit from a little bit of direction, especially as regards the pre-launch stuff, and just get them into the Greywoods machine, which is really very well structured. It's almost like a short course. We've got 12 or 13 week programs where we just help founders get right through to marketing launch. And then beyond that, we set them up to succeed in their first 6 months. So yeah, having a lot of fun at the moment with Greywoods as well. And here's some nice words, including some from Mayfly Ventures yesterday. Thanks, Joe. But yeah, look, getting some lovely feedback from our customers as well. And I hope you've enjoyed today. I love it. There's a team of 4 of me, by the way. So we've got quite a number of coaches and mentors on staff, as well as a digital marketing agency that can really help you execute well. So yeah, look, thank you very much. All I would leave you with today is this. Get super clear in your value prop. Think like your ideal client. In its most reduced form, what is your brand essence? Don't overdevelop the tech. There's a term called paralysis by analysis. Don't get stuck thinking about a new feature you need to build. Just launch. Just get the MVP done, launch it, and add new features later. Don't make it all bells and whistles before you launch, and you'll just run out of money. Your competitors are not your enemy. They might be your best customer. Create your own family. There's a term called yeah, nah, so no arseholes here. And I'm a huge believer in this. Just be really careful about who you let in. But it's very important that you feel supported. Get a good lawyer. We had 2 law cases out of the blue. You will too. There's some dodgy people out there. So get a good lawyer, good accountant, and a business coach, and start with the end in mind. Always have that BHAG in mind. Just why are you doing this? Just what do you really want this to be in your wildest dreams? And just have that sitting there, and make sure your SOAP and your day-to-day documents are working towards that big, hairy, audacious goal. And you're not a startup founder. Once you're launched, you're a CEO. So just check yourself, get directors and officers insurance. Make sure you've got all sorts of things that if litigation or the worst thing does happen, you're a director of a company, and there are implications for that legally. So just make sure you've got your ASIC structured right. You understand what your obligations are to the ATO and ASIC, as well as insurances and what your risks are as a CEO. And then hustle. The market changes quickly. Move at pace. It's amazing how in my 4 years running it, it just morphed into a million different things, and your market will too. So just don't linger, just keep moving, and just make sure you're working at a nice brisk pace, and you're already better than you think you are. So just the fact that you're doing this, 90% of the population just sticks to 9 to 5. You're having a crack, and you've got to commend yourself for that. And yeah, best of luck. I'm here if you need me.
Great. Thanks, Blair. That was awesome. Really, really appreciate that. I learned a lot myself actually today, so fantastic job. We have some questions from the crowd that we'll go through right now, and then if anybody has any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat or just raise your hand. You can always speak verbally if you like. First question is from Nanisha. Any advice for some people who are still maintaining a current full-time job and also pursuing a startup or a side hustle of their own?
Yeah, good question. I did that. In 2015, I was working for a property company in Collins Street, and I did this. I was alt-tabbing all day. It's not good, is it? Because you're working in one thing and you've got your day job. Look, the answer to that is when when it's built, I'm not sure whether there's any tech involved in what you're doing, but if you're waiting on the actual platform or the business to get to a certain tech level, just know where that is. Start getting suppliers and clients on board before you launch. So once you've actually done a beta version and you've actually got some testing done, don't jump before you've got a clear view on demand for what you're doing and the user experience being bulletproof when you launch. I think there's no simple answer to this. I think I think your passion really tells you that it's time. You just will resent doing the other thing, and when that happens, it's time to jump. But just have some of the processes that I detailed in this go-to-market strategy slide. Have those ticked off, and just make sure that you've got your GTM right, your minimum viable product right. Once those are in and you've got a beta version that's working, then jump.
Great. The next one we have is from Mark. Any advice on how do you determine the funding you need for how much or for how much equity to give up?
That's also a very good question. I remember when I did mine, a company's only worth what somebody's willing to pay. And it's as vague as that, unfortunately. There's valuation before you've launched. It's almost impossible to actually find a formula for it. I think you just have to really watch dilution. So don't give too much away up front. You shouldn't fear dilution either, because it's better to have a 20% of something huge than 75% of something that doesn't grow. So don't fear dilution, but in terms of the valuation, there's no easy answer. I think with tech platforms and things that can scale quickly, I think you can definitely go above 3 to 5 million for your initial val, and maybe raise on that level. If it's something a bit smaller, it's hard to say, but as a rule, I would say try to find 25% of what you think the valuation is. So if you're asking for 1 million, do it on a 5 million val as a minimum.
Great. We have a question from Kim. How do you know if and when to bring on a co-founder, and what criteria would you consider?
It's a good question. I think ultimately they've got to have passion for the business. So the mistake I made is that I had somebody doing work paid. They were on a paid contract. So they delivered something fee for service, and then they came on as a founder. I think the answer to the question is they've got to have skin in the game. You can't be the one taking all the risk. If you do get a co-founder, if it's something like a venture firm, for example, then that's fine. That you're both in it together, you're both growing it together. If it's something that's tech related, just make sure that your co-founders have got as much risk as you do personally, so that they've got a real interest in making it work. If one of you has more passion than the other, it won't work. You'll just resent them. But look, have a good think about whether you need a co-founder. If you've got a support network in place anyway, you may not need a co-founder. If you do feel you're going to work better with somebody else, make sure that you're doing something very different to them. Don't just define who does what and have it very clearly delineated. But yeah, and also, the third thing is just make sure they're not a supplier, and that they're not being paid for the work that you're doing for free. That'd be my 3 things.
Great. And then just a comment from Nanisha that this hit list is such a useful tool. Can't wait to work on mine.
Right.
I agree. I thought that was really cool. And then also, she did have a question, but can we view our competitors as potential collaborators and partners?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And look, I didn't get to that realization until about year 2 or 3. I was very much in my lane trying to beat them. But then, you'll find that they're not doing exactly what you do. So there are going to be gray areas. And back to that the value prop and the ideal client exercise about where you define where the gaps are in their model versus yours. Those gaps is where you could maybe work together. If they've got larger clients and you've got smaller ones, that they might want a smaller client base. So I think definitely at networking events, reach out to people who are running competitive businesses. But yeah, don't be afraid at all to have a relationship with them. Obviously, keep your cards close in those first years. But if you do think there's an opportunity there, you can sign an NDA. You can sign a bunch of agreements, heads of agreement. You can. There's things that cover you in relation to them stealing your IP. But you will find absolutely there are synergies and complementing factors in their model and yours that warrant further discussion. So definitely after you've launched and you've done your thing, keeping a little Rolodex of key people in those industries or those companies is definitely worth engaging.
Great. And then also, is the SOAP basically a business model canvas?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. I love it. It is fairly. It's a common term, SOAP, strategy on a page, but it is effectively, you've got your business roadmap and your business plan. Your SOAP sits in the middle. So your SOAP is basically your plan in action. So it takes key elements out of your business plan and you drop it into these tabs and it drags it all into that homepage. And you've got your 5-year, 10-year, 3-year, 1-year quarterly sprints. And it just keeps everybody very accountable. And it's also great for founders who are busy doing other things like networking and capital raising to just have a look at the health of the business on a page. But yes, ultimately it does come from your business plan and business roadmap.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's fantastic for accountability. Paul had a question. What was GoFetch's go-to-market plan? How did it launch?
Yeah, the go-to-market really was just going to be CBD. We were just going after corporates. So we had a very affordable MVP. We really just wanted anybody that had an existing relationship with a traditional courier to go to an app instead. So we really just built desktop with a hyperlocal footprint. And yeah, we were just going to roll that into all the major CBDs. And we were just thinking very small in terms of a lot of businesses in a small area in major cities. And then the market told us very quickly that the opportunity was bigger than that. But yeah, look, our go-to-market was purely corporates and legal firms, documents, and then eventually when we introduced trucks and vans and bigger items, we went after different clients. But our go-to-market was really just a very precise audience and geographical area.
Okay, it looks like we have just a couple nice comments, but we'll get on to the question. The last one we have from Kim. Do you prefer to work on your business over working full-time for a company? Do you prefer to work on your business over working full-time for a company, and why?
Yeah, I do. Good question. I think it's terrifying, but it's very, very invigorating. And it's your baby, you know, like I think when you're self-employed, there's a lot of freedom in it. You've got to apply a lot of rigor to how you work and keep the disciplines of what you might have with a PAYG job. Like you've got to really manage your habits and just be really rigorous in terms of your own values and honoring yourself and with discipline and structure. But I think working for yourself is just unbelievably fun. I would never work again for somebody else. I think, I've done 3 or 4 businesses now, including Greywoods, and it's just fun. You know, you end up, once you're making a bit of money and you've got clients you like, staff you like, suppliers you like, a model that you're passionate about, you don't get that in a PAY job necessarily. So yeah, look, I think, do it. You'll know when you're ready, but absolutely build this to leave that, and you won't know yourself.
Yeah, fantastic. I would definitely say it's invigorating. That's the least of the characteristics I would use. It's very exciting. Hearing from you, Blair. Thank you so much for all your thoughts. And thank you folks for all your great questions. Oh, we have one last one that came in. It's from Paul. When you say you didn't raise enough initially, do you mean getting more from F and F, like friends and family, perhaps?
Yeah, good question. No, not necessarily the source, more the amount. We only raised, I think it was $500,000, and that went very quickly. So building the iOS was 140 grand. Then we ended up having co-working spaces and some bills there, a lot of legal advice and getting those initial contracts set up. So look, you'll burn through your first bit of money very quickly. I just think that if you could, whether it's family and friends and going out broader than just your initial 5 to 10 investors, I'd probably just try to bring in a bit more. The worst thing I must admit about my role at GoFetch was I was always traveling, begging for money. So if you can avoid doing that too often, try to get your business. By the way, yeah, the market's changed a lot. The VC world and investors more broadly, they will want to see a cash positive business now. The days of Uber taking 11 years to break even, those days are over. So you do need to have a really good and realistic runway to break even. I don't think that you'll be able to go after more and more capital raising if you're not demonstrating real growth and real revenue. So yeah, look, raise as much as you can in the first 1 or 2 rounds, because you'll go through it pretty quickly, and getting back out there and going after more money is going to get harder and harder unless you're really you're Uber or Facebook. You just have to, it's going to get harder raising by round 3 or 4. And then the VCs, the big names, they will dilute you pretty heavily. They do want, for the money they give you, they do want fair amount of the equity. So yeah, just in rounds 1 and 2, family and friends, and the first initial high net wealth individuals or whoever likes your idea, get as much as you can.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Blair. We really, really appreciate that as part of the Startup Network's webinar series. We really have the utmost appreciation and just feeling very grateful for when these amazing speakers come to join us and provide this wealth of knowledge. So thank you so much, Blair. If you ever want to host your own webinar or virtual series, please feel free to reach out to me. We would always love new business members. We do have a variety of events coming up in June, but we are ending the month of May with our Climate Tech and Ag Tech Pitch Night, which is next Tuesday. So if you are in Melbourne, please do join us on Tuesday. It should be a very great evening at the Cremorne Digital Hub, where we have 5 amazing founders pitching their products on climate and ag tech. We also have a variety of event series coming up, including our Founder Connect series, which will be happening in the South Yarra Commons with our friends at the City of Stonington on June 18th, and then we will continue with our pitch night and regular programming. But thank you so much again, Blair, and we'll leave you with this happy thoughts, and please reach out to any of us if you have any questions. Blair has a wealth of knowledge that I'm sure Greywoods can help out in a lot of ways if you have questions. All right. Thank you so much, folks.
Very much.
Bye.
See you guys.